course, for being here and listening with us. I've got Ben Gottfredson. Is that right? So I met Ben really when like my book first came out. I was trying to find all these different podcasts to be on, and he's got his Beyond Net Worth podcast that he does with Callan Webster. And you guys are at 69 episodes now.
I don't know. I think we're even more than that now.
Oh, is that what it is?
I haven't.
You probably recorded more than that, but I think the most recent one that just came out was episode 69.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's incredible because Mallory gave me a statistic a few weeks ago. I think if you record 3 podcasts, you're in the top like 21%. And if you make it past 21, you're like in the top 1%. So you guys are doing it.
We love it, man. It's been a really good ride. I just love talking about the game, you know, like it's such a challenge, but you can pull so much out of it and create such an amazing life. That's really why I'm so into talking about entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And with the Beyond Net Worth theme, it's like we don't just bring on the rich people, we bring on the rich people who we admire their personal lives, which is probably more important.
Yeah, well, I think that the name is great. And so you guys are doing a episode a week. Is that what your schedule is?
Yeah.
So you've been recording.
We can keep up with it.
So you've been recording for over a year.
Yeah.
What's your plan with it long term?
You know, that's a big piece, right? Because, and we are still open-ended with that because I think, are you familiar with Sheehan's Wall?
No.
Breaking through Sheehan's Wall is like the principle is like if you hit a wall, you know, one time in 1,000 different places, you can't break through.
Sure.
But if you hit 1,000 times in one place, you can break through, and all the options are open.
Yeah.
So you look at like for example, Hormozy, right? He's fresh on my mind. His niche was gyms, but now like he's posting about like marriage and anything to do with business. Just like anything in general, right? So I think, you know, our niche is I love service businesses because I kind of cut my teeth on the moving company.
Sure.
And I love real estate business because I've enjoyed the self-storage so much. So I feel like that's kind of my niche to get through Sheehan's Wall.
Right.
And then I feel like, you know, the options really open up, but I feel like I'm going to keep my head down and work a little bit more, just kind of keep working and build traction and, you know, see where things go before we really monetize the podcast.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny you say Alex Hormozy because that's who I like to use as my example. And people are like, how's the podcast going? I'm like, it's great. But, you know, it took Alex Hormozy 4 years before his clicked, you know? So it's like, this is episode 51 for me. So next week is my 52nd.
Congrats.
Thank you. And even just like a month ago, I was about to be like, I don't know, man. Because, you know, it's to get guests and to keep it going. And even though you and I are going to be here for 60 minutes, I got here early to prepare and then stay a little bit later and you're doing all the work. It's like, it's a real commitment. And like you, mine's not tied directly to my business. It's just about my interest in people, you know? And so you and I, both of our podcasts are really competing in a very, very challenging space to be found, you know, like we're going up against Alex in that regard. And so it's like, I do another one for my management company called Virtual GM. And that is a hospitality driven podcast. And so that one is like already ranks as like a top podcast because no one else is competing with me really, you know? And so that one has had monetization in the form of like clients and referrals and things like that, where Winning the Moment won't. I have no idea when it'll ever make money. You know, like it's a long road.
Yeah.
And I was just talking to Levi Swenson, a friend of mine, because he's a financial advisor. He's like, what do you think? And I said, well, I would do it because for you, it'll directly relate to clients. Like if you can come on and give some financial information that someone connects with, like that's an opportunity for you. I was like, so it's not going to take you 4 years. Like it's going to take me or Beyond Net Worth podcast to hope that something clicks, you know?
It's true. But you said 52, so you're coming up on a year?
Yeah.
That's something to applaud, man.
No, yeah, I feel good about it, you know? And I think that's where I started to get that self-doubt. Is it was like, oh, I did a year, so like I kind of did it. Like I felt like I gave it a go, you know? And it's funny how the universe gives you signs and signals because right when I was feeling like I think I might be done, people started telling me really great things about the podcast, you know? And I was like, all right, that's the universe letting me know like you can't stop, you know? And even Alex Hormozy says like you do something great for a year and you can be awesome. You do it for 5 years, you can be great. You do it for 10 years, you'll be incredible, you know? And it's so true because most people will give up. So it's like if we just keep going at some point.
I mean, couple thoughts on that just real quick. I know we got a lot to dive into, but there is something to be said about just starting. Like we didn't have a direction, but we've already gotten multiple storage deals. And our podcast isn't about storage, but people know we're drumming.
You're going to talk about it occasionally because it's going on in your life.
Yeah, and people know that we're ambitious. That keeps us front of mind. And we've gotten deals out of it.
Wow, that's awesome.
Even though it's not directly correlated,
right?
And I think too, like you've scaled businesses, like that something that can be built fast can also be torn down fast.
Right.
Things that take time, like people don't want to hear it, but that's what lasts the longest.
I know.
So I think the principle of like knowing, you said 4 years. I think, like most service businesses, podcasts, like these things take 4 or 5 years to really hockey curve and really start to see some money come out.
Absolutely. How long is it's Big Ben's moving, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. How long? When did you start that?
I grew up doing it as a side hustle. I got licensed and insured in 2016 and kind of got more legit.
Okay.
So that's coming up.
Like
on
growing
8
up,
years.
like high school, you did it, or like?
Yeah, I played sports, so I didn't have the time to really like work a normal job.
Sure.
And I was strong and I was a hard worker, so that was kind of what chose me.
Yeah.
Yeah, my grandma had a rest home and she was dissatisfied with the movers, and so she just had me and my family like get a pickup truck and a 12-foot trailer and just move old people's furniture in. And that's kind of how
that's how it all started.
Yeah.
So 2016 then, how old were you at that time?
2016, I would have been 21.
And that's when you started it as like a real, this is I'm going to do.
Licensed and insured, and like I had a long way to go, but that's when I decided we're going to try to do this in a real way. We had the proof of concept where people were calling us because it was in high demand. It was a high demand service. So people were calling us. We were just trying to keep up, and we're like, okay, it's probably time that we go ahead and start doing this legit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exciting. So then that means you're at what? That's like 8 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, 8 years you guys have been going. So that's funny. Vibrant is also, oh no, we're a little bit younger because we were 2018. But so that's like the trajectory that we've been on. And you're right. It just takes time. There's so much turmoil in the beginning because it's like any little thing can sway your business so drastically until you get that stability.
Yeah, it's going to take a while to get out of the trenches. Like a lot of people skip that step too fast. And I'm all about scaling and delegating, and that's like one of the most important things, but you just can't skip hard work a lot of times.
Yeah, I think I see that with a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs is that they're so excited to be the boss or the president, right? And so they want to like just get there so quickly and like then take their hands off. Like, yep, take it. But it's like, no. It's like in the beginning, gosh, the amount of work that I put in 7 years ago. I remember times going to the office at 7 o'clock in the morning, or one time I had to miss our company Christmas party because like we're trying to work on some loan thing. It's like those are the sacrifices you make, and you just can't be in a rush to retire in a sense. You know what I mean? Like you got to put in your work and pay your dues before.
Well, for 2 reasons, right? Like one, I've realized, and we set a goal as like an executive team now for myself and our executive team to go back in the field. There's just something about showing people you're willing to do it.
Absolutely.
So we do that, I'm pretty much planning on doing that, quarterly for the rest of my life, just to show, hey, we're all willing to do this no matter what our role is. But also like scaling a business, you're always going to have some hard work. Like the nature of growing is that you're going to grow to a certain point and then you're going to have to plateau and go back down, or you're going to have to bite off something, take a new risk, do something new you don't like to do. So you're constantly going to have to do the hard things whenever you're scaling your business.
Yeah, I feel like I remember there was a saying, and I don't know if this is right, but it was like your growing pains happen in thirds. So it's like if you have 3 employees, what you do works with 4 and with 5 and with 6. Once you get to 9, it's like, okay, it doesn't work anymore, And then once you have 9, you have to refigure the way that you do it. And then you can work that for a while. But once you get to 27, what you did at 9 people doesn't work anymore. And we found that in our company, where we started so small and then we got, we did that. We went from like 3 people to 12 people, and it was like, hold on, no one knows what the hell's going on anymore. But we're doing the same stuff, but you need different policies and practices because now we're trying to disseminate the information so much wider than it used to be.
That's where it gets fun.
Yeah.
That's the exciting part. I love it.
So when did you get into the storage part of it then?
So storage was kind of like there was two parallels going on. So I realized I was loving real estate, right? Because I bought a single family home, crammed 9 college guys into it. So I was cash flowing well. I was pulling out equity. So I was understanding like, this was like my training wheels for understanding the mechanics of real estate. And then on the flip side, the business side of storage was the moving. I was getting leads.
They're connected.
People would call and say, hey, we've heard great things about you. Can you move our stuff? Yeah, of course. No big deal. Hey, can you do our storage too? No, I'll have to pass you off to someone else.
Yeah.
And that's heartbreaking when someone wants you to just do it all for them. Like because we can take one burden off of your shoulders, but we can't take the other.
Yeah.
So to be able to do that, I just kind of said, I got to do this. Like I knew it was going to be really hard to kind of get into commercial real estate. Probably made some mistakes along the way.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where I was like, I saw the power of real estate and I saw an advantage, an angle that I already had set up.
Oh yeah. That's amazing. Well, I can remember thinking back when I was younger, even with my buddies, being like, man, we just got to buy land in like a small town where that doesn't exist yet because everyone needs them, like there's storage units everywhere. And you buy that land and then it just keeps giving you back returns, every single month. It's an amazing business model.
We love it. We feel like we're in the golden age of storage. Like if you look at storage facilities compared to, and be careful, I'll geek out on this, compared to like apartments or other things like,
yeah, right.
Most of it's all like apartments, most of it's already consolidated. And there's only like just a small percentage that are still like mom and pop operated.
Yeah.
Like people that have a one-off apartment complex.
Yeah.
It's mostly big money. With storage, like it's actually the golden age because still the majority of storage is owned by mom and pop. And what you're going to see in the next decade is all of that mom and pop get consolidated. And we're trying to get a piece of it before.
So when it gets consolidated, they're buying it from you.
Well, yeah. I mean, we still have opportunity out there.
Yeah.
So we're really excited about it.
Well, and your renters aren't living there, ideally. Hopefully not.
Yeah, we can get into some specific stories, but typically no.
So you're not like worrying about stuff getting ruined or your exposure so much less. They can't really mess the unit up too dramatically, So it's like it's just a great business model all the way around.
We love it. And people recognize that it's great to get into. So that's what, I'm skipping ahead, but that's where we provide a lot of value with Big Storage Ventures. Is my first deal I did all on my own the hard way. It was miserable.
And where was your first deal at? Where's it located?
It's here on River Road.
Oh, it is. Okay.
And so that first deal I did it the hard way all on my own. And every deal since then, it's been partners, people that have always wanted to own storage.
Yeah.
They've always wanted to get in the game, but there's just so many barriers of entry and it is harder than it looks. It doesn't have all of the pain of toilets and being a landlord where people live. You have less guilt about kicking a blind lady out of their storage unit versus their house. But the point is like we can help people that want to get in and have those benefits get in. And
so do you have just the one now or have you guys scaled that business?
No, so I have one that's just my guinea pig that I own on my own and worked hard. Had some real hurdles to get there, but we proved that we could have some serious success. So after that's when I decided we're going to do Big Storage Ventures, and we've done 6 since then.
Wow, that's amazing.
So they're all in different phases of stabilization and construction, but
that's incredible. Congratulations. So where do you spend most of your time then? Like what part of the business is taking most of your focus and direction?
I would say leadership and training. Now,
is it all around under like the same executive team over all of it, or
we decided to separate them?
You did.
So we have the storage executive team and the moving executive team.
Okay.
And my main role is to just guide. Honestly, my storage and moving executive teams, they're powerful. They're incredible people, and my job is just to be able to train them and also get out of their way at the same time.
Sure. Yeah.
So I spend a lot of my time like meetings, having big time, like making decisions.
Like visionary type stuff.
Yeah.
Is there any particular process you use to run your businesses?
We use Traction.
Oh, so you do
traction.
EOS?
Yeah.
No, it sounded like it.
It just makes sense. Like it just, reading the book, it just,
Yeah.
for those listening, like it just helps you lay it out in a way that you don't miss anything.
Yeah, and there's also nowhere to hide either. Like if someone's not doing their job, it's obvious. It's glaringly obvious, right? You got a number on the scorecard, and if it's not what it's supposed to be, then there's nowhere to hide. It just is what it is, you know?
And this is a big one too from Traction. Two people can't be accountable for the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. I think there was a lot of that in my business where it's like, okay, you guys take care of this by next week. It's like, well, you guys, that's
somewhere to hide.
That's no one.
Yeah.
It's like, so now one person is accountable. And even if
they have to delegate, they're still accountable.
Yeah. They answer for it. And even if they have to wear a dozen hats, they had that one thing that they're accountable for.
Right. Did you, so you read the book, did you just self-implement from what you read in the book, or did you get an EOS implementer?
I did not get an EOS implementer. I did hire a third-party consultant.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. And she was great. I mean, she was, she did some things spinning off of Traction, but we hired her. And then we did a lot of it ourselves.
You did, okay. Yeah, we at Vibrant we did hire an EOS implementer. So it took us like to the 2 years of training and doing it all. And I was really against it because it was expensive, and we were young, and I felt like we were a little bit ahead of that was a bigger commitment than we had earned the right to spend money on yet.
Okay.
But I'm so glad that we did. We wouldn't have gotten to where we did without that existing. And then in all the new businesses that we're creating now, we're creating it with we just created a marketing company about a year ago, and we sat down and said, okay, what are our core values? What's our core focus? Who's our target market?
Yeah.
What are we going to try and accomplish in this year? And what's funny to think of is at Vibrant, we literally never did that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We didn't. We just started and we're like, oh, let's be in hospitality and make money. But it wasn't defined. We didn't know what, we weren't trying to do anything other than just don't lose money.
Yeah.
But it's not like we had a profit goal and a revenue number and rocks. None of that existed. And so there's just no way we could have done what we did without that stability.
Well, it helps you keep your eye on the margins, right? And it helps you begin with the end in mind. You're just talking about the inception of your first company and the inception of this company and how different they are.
Oh, so different. Well, and even then, the scorecard, because humans are simple creatures, right? So it doesn't take a lot. And so one of my scorecard metrics was our AP, what it was at.
Yeah.
And so I used to send out the invoices, then just kind of wait. But now I have the scorecard and the metrics. I'm sending hey, can you get this paid,
Yeah.
And obviously that's a much better way to be. But it's funny, it just took that little incentive of every week when I'd have to go over my scorecard number, I didn't want it to be red,
There's an accountability piece.
Yeah.
But you learn as you go from one business to the next, you learn how to scale with the end in mind, right?
Yeah.
I see a lot of times, and this is something I've had to learn, and I watch people who are starting their first business for the first time, they'll partner up or they'll hire someone and their role isn't scalable. It works for this month or this quarter.
Yeah.
But they cut them in at ownership without ever having an operating agreement or saying who's done what.
Yeah.
It's you got the business to this size and then you cut someone else in, but you didn't say anything about the details.
You're right.
So, Traction and operating agreements and some of these things that maybe they're a little bit more the nuts and bolts, the implementation.
Yeah.
I know we like to talk about motivation on podcasts, but the implementation is very key when you're running a business too.
Oh yeah. Just to start knowing where you're going. And you talked about the accountability chart a little bit, but what people's roles are and building out the roles you need versus well, Ben could do this.
Yeah.
And I like Kalen, so we're going to put him over here. It's no, what's the role that we need to operate and then fill those roles from there, So I think that's really cool. I think one of the things I've loved in meeting you and watching you since I was on your podcast is it seems like you're always trying to move forward in some way. And because you work with Brody Fawcett, what's that thing he's got going on? You guys do some
we do his mastermind.
Mastermind, that's right.
So he does the Dreaming Bigger Faster mastermind, which highly recommend it. And
well, what was your connection with him? How did you get started on that?
We all went to high school together.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, so he's a couple years older than me.
Okay.
Played on the football
Is
team.
that Snow
together.
Canyon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just right here down the street. And but yeah, my wife even got in on they had like a couples goal setting retreat.
Uh-huh.
We should have you and your wife out next year.
Oh, I'm all about it.
You would love it.
I think so.
But you said that, we're always biting off a little bit more than we can chew. And I just feel like that's the natural way of business. I remember I'd just done one storage deal, and my wife and I, we've been married like a year, and I was cooking up the second deal, and she's like, when is it going to end? I'm like, no. Like, we are just getting started. Like, this is just the beginning, and you don't want it to end. like if we don't grow, we die.
Yeah.
And so biting off a little bit more, working hard to make it work, sometimes taking small steps back. Like, you hire a bunch of people, you try to make them efficient. You might have to let someone go that you love. Like, that's kind of what we're in the thick of right now.
Yeah, or restructure and realize that there's a more intelligent way to get that same task completed at a lesser rate, and it's hard to separate the person from the task. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like if you've got this amazing relationship with someone, it's hard to know, like, oh, I can have someone do it for half as much.
It's true though.
I don't love that person like I love you, but I have to do that. That's a hard thing to do. It's a hard decision to be in. And I think when you're coming from a good place, they always accept it. Like, we had our social media director who I loved. His name was Kyle. And it got to that point where I was like, okay, we got to shift the way that this is working.
Yeah.
But he knew too. And so because there was so much transparency, like it all worked out great for both of us. But you do have to make those difficult decisions. And I'm glad you brought up your wife too, because I think if you're going to really grow something special, you can't do it alone.
Yeah.
And your spouse needs to understand, kind of like where she was like, wait, when's it going to end? You're like, oh no, they got to be in that with you, because otherwise it can cause contention,
And I think it's important to look at good examples and bad examples, both on the men's side and the women's side too, because you can look at successful entrepreneurs who really let their family go. And I think that's scary, right?
Oh, for sure.
You can also look at entrepreneurs who they enlist the whole family in the business. They become better parents. Like, they set aside more time and more freedom to take care of the family. And that's what's inspiring. And that's what you have to really model your life and your family after. Yeah.
My wife is 50% owner and Vibrant with me. And so, like, we're doing it all together, Yeah. And it's so awesome to get to that point, because then we're working towards something together versus like she's working on something, I'm supporting her, vice versa. Like, we're truly in it together. And I think it's cool for our kids to see that too and understand like what it is that we're trying to do,
Yeah, you have a 10-year-old now. I mean, that's an age where they can pick up on how you're running the family and how you're running your business, and it can be very impactful for them to watch that, and I hope they get as close as they can to it.
Oh yeah, no, it's funny. I'm a big Jordan fan, as you can see, and I'd gotten a pair of Jordans, and my son was like, I want a pair, and he's 7, so his feet are going way too fast, and they're still like $100. And I was like, well, I'm not going to buy them for you. I was like, but people, like, if you want to raise money for them, by all means. He's like, what do you mean raise money? I was like, well, it's just like what Dad does. If there's like something I need, I don't have the funds for it, I have to get people to invest in it so I can get it. I was like, lots of people, I'm sure they'd be willing to part ways with $5 or $10. It doesn't take that many people to get to 100. And he's like, well, who can I ask? I was like, whoever you want. So he goes around all of our neighbors and says, like, I'm trying to buy my first pair of Jordans. Are you willing to help me? I swear to God, in 20 minutes, he had raised $100.
Wow.
And so then he bought those shoes himself. And of course, my neighbors are like, you son of a bitch, like, get me to buy your son's shoes for you. Like, that's such a Cody thing to do. But it's like, it was a great learning opportunity for him, because he realized, like, oh, I really want this, and I've got to find a solution to get it. The problem is now that's what he wants to do every time. So it's like, you can't keep tapping the same well, you have to find a different solution. But it was cool to be able to take that real life experience for him and say, this isn't all that different from how business works,
Yeah. I can see it, man. That's awesome.
But yeah, my Brack was my neighbor at the time, and he just died laughing, because he was like, of course you get your son to get other people to buy his shoes for him,
I'll keep that one in mind when my daughter's going
it's a good
shopping.
One. Yes, it's a good one. Have him raise the money. So tell me more about that Dream Bigger thing, because I saw you guys, like, I don't know when you did it this year, but I remember seeing posts of like your group and what you guys were working on. I was like, damn, that seems like an awesome thing you guys are doing.
Yeah, and I guess I'll preface by saying, like, I don't think you need I just started investing in coaching and mastermind in probably the last 2 years. Right?
Okay.
So I think you can get pretty far with or without it, but it's just accelerating the process.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, if you go to the gym and be healthy and fit, but if you have a trainer who's super skilled and knows fitness and nutrition and all of those things, you're going to get there faster if you have a coach.
Well, there's the rule of 33, which I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it says that, 33% of the people you hang out with should be your peers. 33% should be people maybe that are on the way to being where you are that you could give a hand to. And 33% should be other people that are maybe ahead of you that you want to become more like.
I love that.
And I think it's always safer to, like, my nature, I don't really pick my friends based on accomplishments or money. Like, that's just, maybe I wish I did. But I just hang out with the people that I love, that maybe I've known them for a long time, or our personalities click. That doesn't always equal like someone that's good for me to hang out with and push myself in a business sense. Right. And so to go to this is really good for me because I expose myself to other people who are very hyper ambitious. They're working through the same things, but yet they're down to earth enough that it's never like, it's always fun. It's always enjoyable. And we pitch different ideas, solutions, and we really compress the amount of time it should take to
work through something.
Yeah. Like, what it takes to do a year, most people would set as like an annual goal. We try to compress it into like a quarterly goal.
Wow.
So that's,
well, I think anytime you get around those kind of individuals and you get that synergy and that energy flowing around a room, like that's always going to be a positive thing, and knowing that there's other people who work, because sometimes I think we get stuck thinking we're the only ones dealing with something. Right. And so when you get in a room and someone else has it, then it's like, it gives you that comfort and that ability to then work with them to figure out like if they've already solved something or if you have, you can help each other get through it. I think it's really important to have that. What I've noticed in a year of doing this podcast is a lot of the people who are really accomplishing like admirable things are all invested in coaching.
It's great, man. You can't get as far as fast, right? And I have a coach that coaches specifically storage investing, and then I have the mastermind, which is just more general. And so
that's just like your life goal type stuff.
Yeah, it's like general business goal. It's like more like goal setting, and you're casting your vision for your life, and then the storage investing is more like your actual business, like honing in on your actual skills.
When you're doing your goal setting, how far out are you putting those goals?
Well, with the mastermind, we used to do annual goals. Now we do basically goals for the quarter.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're doing rocks.
Kinda.
Yeah,
it's different. It's different than traction. I won't get into the details, but he does it on a 4-month. And traction's on a 3-month.
Oh yeah.
So it does have a little bit of funny overlap. But it's good. It compresses it in a really good way.
Well, it's amazing what happens when you do have goals. Like we were just talking with Blake and Mallory before you came here, and it's like it's amazing. And she like made the joke of it's so funny how people say like you say something then it happens. Like oh yeah, of course it does, but it's like it really does. When you set that intention and you put it out there and you let everyone know you're working towards it and you're doing it, it's amazing the power of what can happen when you really put your energy towards something like that.
Isn't it funny though? Like sometimes it happens at the last second, like on a buzzer beater. Like I just had that happen to me. We were talking off the air about like my recent 7-day fast, like trying to cut some weight. My goal was to get I started 250 January 1st. My goal was to cut below 220. I literally did it the last day.
No shit.
Of the 7-day fast. Like there's no way I could have measured and predicted that. I got 219 like the last day.
It's funny because it's like that's the reward you needed so you could feel good about the thing you did, It's
just I mean, I don't know a way except luck or inspiration, but like, yeah, it just happened to be. And the other funny thing is I weighed myself and then I put my underwear on to document it. And I was back over 220. I had to take my underwear off to be under 220 and be at that 219.
That's amazing.
Like a couple ounces. It was crazy.
Wow, good for you. So you're down 30 pounds on the year.
Yeah, I gained a couple back from 219.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm down 25 pounds.
How good does that feel?
Feels good.
When you think about it, when you walk around with that weight, like even 25 pounds, let's just say you stayed at 250 for the next 10 years. That's a lot of weight you're carrying around for 10 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and are you at your goal, or are you still trying to get lower?
My goal is to stay in the 220s and now work on like body composition.
Okay, I think I remember seeing that post about that. So what inspired the 7-day fast? Like, where did that come from?
Well, the first time I heard it, I thought, why? Like that is so pointless. Like that's needless suffering. It's not super healthy, you know. But as I thought more about it, I was like, you know, this would be really good for me. I need a mental toughness check-in. Like,
yeah.
You know, I ran a couple marathons a couple years ago, and it was always good for me to just check in on where I was mentally. This was the same thing. I knew I needed it to just keep a hard commitment to myself and build some trust with myself. And
isn't that amazing how like much we can let ourselves down? Because guaranteed, like anyone that works with or for you isn't like, you know, who never delivers is Ben. You know, like that's something no one would say about you, but yet for ourselves, I find that we're so easily able to let ourselves down.
yeah,
And you need those mental tests, you know?
yeah. And it's, you know, I think it took me like a couple months to commit. Probably took me a year to say I was going to do it. Right?
Yeah.
Because I'm the type of guy, like if I say I'm going to do something, I'm on the hook. Like,
For sure.
I just can't break a promise to myself, right? And I feel
Oh,
like,
so you don't have that problem.
well, I just won't make the promise. You know? like I just won't say.
But
it.
if you do it, if you say it, you're doing it.
Yeah, like if I feel like and maybe that's a bad thing because I could push myself a little bit harder and like
If you're willing to fall short sometimes.
maybe I should break a few promises to myself, but usually I won't promise it unless I'm committed to doing it.
Yeah.
You know? And I feel like for me at least, there's a good balance of like pushing myself to the point of failure versus like things that are actually a commitment. It's really good for me to keep those things.
Sure.
Protect your word even to yourself. You
Oh,
know?
it's so important because your subconscious will start to know you're full of shit otherwise.
Right.
And then it doesn't have any value anymore.
Right.
You know? So it's like you gotta keep that promise. What was the hardest part about it?
About halfway through, you start to fade. Like I started on a Sunday, and about Tuesday afternoon, I started to fade. Wednesday was pretty bad.
Did you do anything before Sunday morning? Like, did you have a big dinner Sunday night or Saturday night? I mean,
I started on Easter, so I started after the Easter feast.
Yeah.
So I was pretty good. Sunday, Monday, I was fine. Tuesday morning, I was fine. Tuesday afternoon, I do my moving company executive meeting on Tuesday afternoon. I could feel myself start to slip and lose patience and lose that sharpness.
Yeah.
And then Wednesday I woke up, I had a couple good hours in the morning, but Wednesday afternoon, same thing. And then Thursday and the rest of the week, I was pretty sharp. I was still hungry, but
yeah,
I was functioning pretty well at a pretty normal level.
What was the thing you craved the most?
Whatever was in front of me.
Really? Not like one
Yeah.
particular thing that was just like, oh, I wish I had this.
My in-laws brought around Veo
Pies.
pie and some pizza, but it was just whatever's in front of you.
Yeah. What'd you break it with?
Pizza.
Pizza?
Yeah, pizza. My buddies, they pranked me and they got me crumble cookies. And I kept them the whole week.
Oh,
So
wow.
we put them in the freezer and I got them back out to document that they had not been touched.
Well,
all
I
week.
loved your April Fool's post. It was hilarious.
Oh man, I couldn't help myself.
That was so good.
Every year, dude, I say I'm gonna like go easy on April Fools, and I always have to do something, and someone always gets hurt. Like, like there were people. First of all, my buddy Zach, who he's the one who kind of like turned me on to the fast. Dude, he was broken. He was like, dude, you didn't let.
Oh, I saw that.
You didn't let me down.
You let yourself down. Yeah, that was awesome.
Because he designed the whole thing around me, and he sent me this long.
But I
text
love
and-
that he said that to you because, like, he could have been like, "It's okay, dude. Like, it happens." But he was like, "No, it's not okay," and you did this to yourself.
Yeah, he was upset. But the people I feel really bad for, there was like people who they said like, "Hey, you inspired me to the fast." And then they messaged me and they said like,
I broke it too.
I broke it. They're like, don't feel bad, I broke it. I'm like, April Fools. I'm not like that. I keep my word. I was like, I really felt bad in my heart.
Yeah.
But honestly, like I feel the worst for those people that they were like trying to be nice to me, and it was like I punked them too.
I thought that was great. I loved watching it as a bystander. So you talked about playing sports. Obviously, winning the moment has so much. Like sports is such an inspiration for me in my life because it's where I learned to win and to lose and the value of teamwork and like all of those things, right? So intertwined in my life and being competitive, you know, and whatever it is that I'm doing. Did you play collegiate athletes or you did?
I played at Dixie State.
You did?
Back when it was Dixie State and it was D2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's still a big deal.
It was fun. It was good for me for sure.
Did you play for 4 years?
No, I played 3 seasons and, you know, it was great. Like I wish I could have a camera follow me around because we had some coaches that were just ruthless, and I have the personality. I actually like that, and so
I never minded that either.
Yeah, it was just really, really good for me overall. I'd say a couple things from sports that I'd say I carry with me in business would be, first of all, no quitting. Right?
Yeah,
like in business or in sports, like the only true losers are the ones who just hang it up.
Absolutely.
Like the ones who they don't push through, they don't get back up. That's where you really let yourself down.
Well, and I think what's great about sports is it allows you to understand that just because you lost, you keep going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like if you're playing a football game and you got 12 games in a season, if you lose one, it's not like, okay, season's over, everyone go home.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what did we not execute, and let's do better at that next week. And that's how you create progress. And I love that it teaches us how to lose.
Yeah, and taking punches.
Yeah.
Right? Like my business, and I know your business too, but my business on the booming side, high stress. We're dealing with people's most stressful time.
Yeah.
And so it's on us to literally take that stress as a company and take that burden from them.
I mean, you got all of their possessions.
Yeah.
You know, if something happens to something that was important or sentimental, like that's a lot of pressure on you guys.
Yeah, but you know, this process of just people will stab you in the back, your truck hits ice, like, you know, like different things go wrong, and I feel like the reason why we survived and why we're going to keep surviving is just we've just learned to take punches. And I feel like if you're picturing like a heavyweight fight, like throwing 2 punches, like that's not the guy who is the best boxer or MMA fighter. The guy who's the best MMA fighter is the guy who could take a kick to take a knee to the head
and keep going,
get back up and be resilient.
Yeah.
So I think no quit. I also think being selfless is a big one. When I was playing football in high school, I was asked to play left tackle. I'm pretty small, but like I was the best guy for the job. I probably would have been better suited to play tight end just with my build.
Yeah.
I that was more what I was built for, but the team needed me to play left tackle, right? And so I don't think I realized how big of an impact that had on me until years down the road.
Yeah, of course, you don't notice it in the moment.
Because it's like, yeah, I'm just going to do what's best for the team, but like I think making those sacrifices and doing like what's not best for you, but what might be better for the whole group.
Well, because the tight end, you can get touchdowns and you get like those highlights, and someone who doesn't know football doesn't even know what the left tackle's doing. They don't know it's the most important position on the team. They just think like he's a lineman.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. He's nobody basically to the viewer.
That's what I'm saying.
But to the team.
Yeah, not at all. That's the most important role.
Right? I think there's roles in business where you have to have that left tackle mindset.
Yeah, that's good. Is that what you played in college then too?
I played defensive end in college.
Oh, you did? Okay.
That's what I was playing. I was going
both ways.
On both ways, and I only had the option. I was so small. I was too small to play defensive end.
Well, I'm thinking you're small to be a left tackle.
Well, I had no business playing left tackle even in high school. Definitely not in college.
Yeah,
that was an undersized defensive end because I never got any practice at tight end. You know.
Yeah.
So that's how it shook out.
Do you go to the game still? Do you like have anything to do with the college?
I coached Snow Canyon High School for a couple years.
Oh, was that fun?
It was. I'm gonna go back to it. You know, I'm having a son in 2 months.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of like in my season of running my business.
Yeah.
You know, when I see myself being a full-time coach of both my daughter and my son.
Yeah, I coach all my kids' sports, and
Yeah.
we just got done with soccer. He's 7, so it's like
Okay.
the worst soccer ever, you know? It's like everyone bunched around, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and so like, and I run my practices like I played sports my whole life, so I run them like a practice, you know, like whistle, sprint,
Nice.
like they'll be looking around. I'm like, if I'm talking, look at me.
Yeah.
Like, don't talk to each other. I'm talking, you know, like trying to show them that like respect and accountability and teamwork and working on drills. And then so like, I realized that when we did throw-ins, they were like sitting there forever with the ball over their heads. So last practice, I played a game. We had 6 kids. So I put 7 balls around the field and said, whoever can get 2 balls to the cone first wins. So they learned to like throw it in quickly.
Oh.
So then we had our last game. And so like, all the other kids are looking around. My kids are grabbing the soccer ball and throwing it and just going, you know, and it's like take advantage. But I had to tell myself before the games, like the very first game of the season, I said, okay, I will not get mad because it's 7-year-old soccer and it doesn't matter. And I know that. But if I'm doing it, I want to win.
Have you kept your word?
No.
Didn't think so.
We had one game that my team was not into it. Like, I don't know what was going on. They were just like looking up at the sky and just like not into it at all. And we got our ass kicked. And after that game, I was like, I'm done coaching. I'm never doing it. But then we did really good our last 3, so I felt better. But it is that balance, you know, because they do want it, and like they don't keep score either at city soccer, but so I do, you know. So I'll tell them like if we won or lost, because I think it's important for them to understand that. Yeah. And if we did lose, like, hey guys, here's the reason we lost. You know, just like I was talking about earlier. So then at practice the next week, it's like, hey, we're working on this because that's why we lost. And then we're doing strategy. The other teams, I taught my team, if the ball's coming towards our goal, I don't want you to try and stop it and get going the other way, kick it out of bounds. Oh. Like just stop momentum. And so like we're probably the only team of 7-year-olds who's like, my team knows just if the ball's rolling down and you can't turn around, just kick it out of bounds.
Smart.
You know,
but it probably works.
It does work because then they have to stop and throw it in and they're doing the thing where they hold it forever, you know.
And you're set up.
Yeah. Do you know Tavish? Do you know Tavish from Bondier? He's a designer here in St. George.
I think I know a different Tavish.
Oh, okay. We played against him the last game, so it was super fun because then like we got to joke around and I bet him Angelica's tacos.
Okay.
Yeah. So he owes me tacos, which is nice.
That's where we went.
Yeah.
I love Angelica.
I went there today. I love it. It's the best lunch spot.
Nice.
We went there today. I went there.
Sponsored.
Yeah.
Sponsored by Angelica.
I should get a free lunch. I went there today with Levi, I was telling you, and we ordered, sat down. I swear to God, in 2 minutes we had our food. And that's why I love it for a lunch spot because you're not going to get stuck there for an hour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It works out really well. Okay, so you don't go back to the college anymore. What do you think about the name change? How do you feel about it? I
mean, here's one thing about me is I'm going to pick my battles. Like, you know, there's lots of people that would die to have the name changed back. It's like,
yeah.
I think it was fine how it was, but I also am not going to spend any of my energy on something that's not like my top priorities, you know?
Yeah, seems like you do a good job of putting your focus where it belongs.
I just have to. I don't have much of a choice.
So, obviously you're very invested in your own personal development. Are you a big reader?
Yeah. My reading though is very different from other people's. Like, I'm not trying to read a certain amount of books in a year. Like, I'll read probably 6 books this year. Okay,
so about one every other month.
And my idea, I'll reread them if they're good. Like if they're bad or if they're like there's nothing to implement, I will just read it once or
will you quit a book?
I would quit a book.
See, I'm terrible at that. Like I've just got this weird like have to finish it thing. So my book right now, my nightstand has 3 books on it right now, all halfway read. And then it just stops my momentum because I'm not like enthused to read it. But
it's new. I haven't always been able to quit
really
because you don't want to be a quitter.
I know I have a hard time with it,
right?
But I am kind of quitting anyways. Like it's been on my nightstand for a year, you know.
Well, yeah, it's a pivot.
Yeah,
right. It's a pivot. Like you have to ask yourself, am I quitting the book because I'm lazy or because
it's not serving me?
I love to read. I'm going to read something better. Right?
Yeah,
it's not serving me. So I think that's a pretty good way to filter it. And this is a new thing I've been able to do is quit books. I feel like I used to
all good avid readers I know, like the best advice they give is like, don't read a book that's not like you're not interested in.
Yeah.
Like don't feel bad, move on, or even skim it. Like if you can skim it and because they say, 20% of the value in the book or how does that go? only 20% of the message is in a little part of it. So it's
Sure.
like you don't have to read the whole book to get it all. Find that 20%, take out what you need, and then be done with it.
But there's some books that I'm soaking in every word, right? Like Traction. I've read Traction now like 10 times.
You couldn't skip that one. Have you read any of the other ones like Rocket Fuel or
Yeah. And like me and my wife were reading the book Mindset together.
Oh, nice.
Have you read that one? Oh yeah. I think it's a Hallmark.
Mindset?
Yeah.
Is it a part of the EOS series or no?
No.
Do you know who the author is?
Who? It's a woman. Carol Dweck?
Okay, we'll look it up.
Yeah, Dweck.
Mindset.
Yeah, it's a good one. So, but what we're doing is like, we're reading it more like it's scripture. Like, we're not just trying to like get through it. We'll read like every Sunday and then we'll discuss it. Like, hey,
that's cool.
How do we want to raise our family within this framework?
I love that.
We're not trying to buzz through these books, like 6 books a year, as long as they're good books and we're really pulling a lot out of them. That's what we're going.
Do you have a favorite?
Honestly, it's kind of boring. Obviously, Traction's on my mind.
Yeah,
I got a lot of them that are up there. But
I think for any business owner, especially if you're just starting out and you didn't have like a corporate background that you got to bring to being an entrepreneur, that's as good as it gets, man.
Yeah, Mindset is by Carol Dweck.
There it is.
Thanks, Mel.
See, look at that. Okay, so then next question: what's the biggest win you've ever had in your life?
Biggest win for sure, marrying my wife.
Yeah. How long have you guys been married?
We've been married since 2020.
Okay.
So we're coming up on.
You got married in 2020.
3.5 years.
How was that?
It was awesome.
It was. No problems.
We are anti-COVID in our house, so we just ignored all the warnings. And
what time in 2020 did you get married?
October.
Okay, so it was like it'd been gone a little bit at that time.
It was still annoying. Like, we still got in fights with flight attendants about masks, and
that's the worst.
On our honeymoon, we just tried to ignore people who would tell us to like wear our mask on the beach and stuff. But we had a good time.
Where did you guys go on your honeymoon at?
St. Lucia.
Oh, that's where I went on my honeymoon.
Nice, dude.
That's amazing.
Great marriages start there.
Yeah, that's what I heard. That's why I went there. I'll never forget driving to our resort. And this, of course, was a long time ago. We got married in 2011. But like driving out there, and like there'd be parts of the road that were just washed away. Like along the mountain, and then like the van would just like go into the other lane and get around it, And I'm thinking, you don't have a system of knowing if another car's coming around. Like the whole way there, I was just like, I was not comfortable. Did not start off good, but man, did I love it. What a beautiful place.
It's a nice spot.
Oh, it was incredible.
Yeah.
Did you go do like that, where you get like that sulfuric mud? And like
Yeah, we got pictures in the famous sulfur mud.
Yeah.
Scuba diving was probably the highlight, That was we stayed at.
How was your weather?
Perfect.
Ours rained like half of the time.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean it was a honeymoon, so that's not too bad, right?
It wasn't bad.
Yeah. Rain's the best. Rain's not that bad on a honeymoon vacation.
No, not at all. It's so beautiful, and the people were so amazing, and I would definitely somewhere that I would go back to.
Yeah.
Who chose that?
Me, because I gave her a couple options because it was COVID, and it was like 3 options.
And were they weird on the island about it, or was that like other guests?
Oh yeah, they were weird on the island.
Interesting.
Like
you'd think being more secluded, they would have been okay.
There was some things that were just perfectly normal, but then if you walk past the wrong person, it's like they snap you right back into it.
It'd be really interesting once we have enough time that passes, so people can like untie their emotional like thought process, and just so we can laugh at you guys. You on an airplane had us like line up away from each other to get on the plane. Like at Southwest, they had like, the 6-foot thing to sit next to each other. And it's got the best filtration system in the world anyways. Like the things, or the restaurant thing, like, okay, you can take it off when you get to your table, but you got to wear it when you walk there. It's like none of that shit made sense. And it would be so interesting. Obviously, some people are already there.
Yeah.
But like, there's got to be a history class at some point that my kid's going to take. And they're going to be like, you want to see a crazy picture? Like, look at these people outside. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how long that's going to take, but man, it's fascinating.
Depends on who writes the history books, right?
Yeah, that's the scary part.
Yeah.
That was the weirdest. I mean, I'm so glad that we lived here because we had it way better in Southern Utah than many other places.
Yeah.
You know, like it didn't impact me like it did others. But I mean, there's people who are still living that life.
Yeah, it's hard to watch, but we don't have to.
Thank goodness. God, we're so lucky to live in Southern Utah. Okay, so what's your biggest loss?
Biggest loss, man. I have them. This is like something that I really try to avoid. Like my biggest fear is regret. So I'm always trying to think with that as like a filter or a lens. Yeah. Not that I'm like running from regret, but
you're not living with fear.
Chasing a life of fulfillment.
Yeah.
But so I think some of my biggest losses are like opportunities I had to share the gospel with people and maybe not be as like loving and bold as I could have been. Like I'm a big Christian, so
yeah,
I have
that's a first. That's the first time someone said that for their loss. That's interesting.
That's it, man. Like
did you on a mission?
I did.
Are you talking about on your mission or like in regular course of life?
I think both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I have specific memories from my mission. Like
where did you go?
I served in Florida.
Okay.
Which is really cool because there's people from all walks of life.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you get into like the real
communities
people there,
yeah.
which is where we were.
Yeah.
So I have specific memories of just like times I could have handled it better, but also like, you know, I'm thinking just general life,
yeah.
you know, just like cause I feel like I have a really big blessing. Like I feel like I have a ton of miracles that I've seen in my life. And honestly, like, I feel like if everybody had a lot of the experiences that I've had, I feel like they would be leading a different life. And so part of me just wants to, like, that's part of my big why of like why I want the freedom is so I can facilitate more of that sharing. You know what I mean? So
that's cool.
That's a big motivator.
Do you guys talk about that on your podcast much?
Yeah, we try to. My most recent guest was one of my priesthood heroes.
Okay.
One of the guys who, when I was a young man, he really put his arm around me, and he really, like, you know, I would say discerned a lot of my needs and like really inspired me to be a better person.
Yeah.
So we had him on recently. A lot of it's just business. Not everyone's religious that comes on. That's not a requirement or anything, but like it's
yeah, you had me on, so clearly not.
It's a big part of my life,
yeah.
You know, but so it comes up quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when you say like share that, I love that as a purpose. I think that's incredible. And how do you mean to do that?
Well, there's lots of ways to do it, right? Like the two greatest commandments are love God and love your neighbor.
Yeah.
And on those hang the law and the prophets, right? So there's like those two ways are the number one ways that you can share the gospel of Jesus Christ is to devote your life to God first, because that's the first one.
Yeah.
Right? And then if you have that one taken care of, you devote anything left over to those around you, your neighbors, no matter what. And then the actual gospel of Jesus Christ, like actually what Jesus taught, you know, that stuff is all naturally hung on those two big commandments.
Yeah. Religion's such an interesting thing. You know, I mean, even just like what's going on right now with Israel and Gaza, it's like it's so fascinating and it's so deeply rooted in all of history, you know, and so it's like
I was there, dude. I was in Jerusalem and Gaza in June.
No way.
Yeah, right before the war broke out.
But shit.
What you have to realize is that's not religion. That's politics, man.
Like, you're probably right. Yeah.
Like I've been.
That's power.
Yeah, it's all power. I had this blessing to be at a camp in Greece. I'll try to keep this quick, but basically these refugees they're Islam, some Christians, some Jews, right? But mostly Islam.
Okay.
And they're fleeing the dictators who, you know, it's Muslim on Muslim violence. You know?
Right. Uh-huh.
They have to flee through Turkey, but Turkey will actually like kill them if they catch them. That's how they handle their border patrol. So they're not safe. They're not safe till they get to Greece. So they'll wash up on a raft that the Turkish mob sells to them on a Greek island, and if they're lucky, there's some
They're
people,
going to make it.
people there that will hand them a blanket and food and take care of them while they process them and get them to the other European countries that will help them. But while I was there, I got to know, the Islam faith and see that, and it's all political. Like there's nothing, inherently evil about the Muslim faith.
Oh, of course not. Yeah. I mean, they're that's just their religion, just same as anyone here has theirs,
There's awesome documentary you could watch on Assad. It's about, like, I think it's on Hulu or Amazon.
I love that stuff.
You should watch it, man. It's crazy. Like it breaks down like his whole regime and Syria and everything that's going on over there. And
well, that's what's amazing. I mean, there's so much complexity to it. You know, it's like it's hard to wrap your head around. It's
insane.
But I hate to see like when they do bomb or destroy anyone's holy site, like no matter whose it is, Islam's or Jewish holy site. It's like that goes so far back in time. Like it's just a shame to have like current day power struggles diminishing something that you could never get back.
It's crazy. And you brought up the Israel-Palestine one. That's one I don't know how to handle it. Like a lot of these political conflicts, you're like, yeah, if I was in charge, I'd do this. That one is crazy.
Yeah.
Because after World War II, we basically, to do right by the Jewish people, we displaced the Islam people.
Yeah.
And so we tried to create a solution and try to get them to coexist. But that's one that is very, very difficult to unravel.
Well, and even recently, so Iran bombed Israel and like basically Israel stopped it all. Like, so there's no impact. So then Israel, because they like can't just let someone bomb them and do nothing, then they have to bomb them.
Yeah.
But they specifically like bombed, non-impactful places. That's like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's all with our tax money.
I know. While there's a war in Ukraine that we're paying for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a crazy time to be alive. We're going through some weird shit.
We are.
What year did you graduate high school?
12.
Man, so you 2008, you were in it. Well, you've seen some crazy stuff. Like our generation.
Yeah.
I mean, at least I guess it could be worse. We don't have to go to war.
Yeah.
Or at least.
Not yet.
I think I'm too old anyways. I'm pretty sure like I missed the cut now. Like if there was to be an enlistment, I'm out, I think.
Well, yeah, it's going to be crazy. I don't think I could ever enlist knowing what I know about how much politics is in war, unless they come to American soil. Then we're all in.
Of course, yeah, that's 100% different. But they never would because we've got so many registered firearms people. I think they said the registered hunters in Minnesota, I think would be the second largest army in the world.
That's
So
awesome.
it's like that's why no one's coming over here.
Yeah.
Do you get into politics at all, or do you try and stay away from it?
Sure. Yeah, I'll get into politics, man.
Oh, I don't want to do it now. I was just curious if you are like in it. Like, did you pay attention?
Less than some, more than others. I mean, like I have nothing. I have a pretty high stress tolerance, so it doesn't like overwhelm me or anything.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like I also like to give my energy to where it will do the most good, and sometimes that's not politics, right? Like so I want to be engaged at a level where I understand the basic chess pieces on the board.
Sure.
But I'll tell my wife all the time, like, look, here's what one side says, here's what the other side says, and you have to know it's somewhere in between.
100%. Yeah.
Somewhere in between.
So much theatrics and shit.
Yeah.
And well, I remember I was in Kanab when Biden beat Trump in 2020. And I remember being at dinner and someone being like, how do you feel? And I was like, honestly, my life was great when Trump was president. I'm sure my life will be great after he's not. My life was great when Obama was president. Like, I'm not going to let that one person dictate my happiness or like the maybe the rules will change and I'll have to shift some things. But I honestly never paid attention until COVID at all. Like I didn't know anything about anything. Yeah. And then COVID happened. I was like, I better start to learn these chess pieces, right? Like
time to tune in.
Yeah, something's not right. Okay, so last question for you. How do you define success?
To me, success, and we kind of touched on it. Success is passing down the principles you live by and hold dear multi-generationally.
That's cool.
So like not just to your kids, to your kids' kids. So like I think that is the true measure of a person is like, can they live a life? Because who are getting the front row seat? And I have young kids. So this is like very forward thinking, but who is like the front row to your life, your kids, right? Your brothers and sisters, like those people that are closest to you, if they look at your life and say, I want to be more like that, that is how you measure your life. And if it sticks, right? Because if you can pass it down to your grandkids, you're delirious old person, but you lived in such a way that it stuck with your kids long enough to pass it on to their kids. That to me is success.
What a fucking awesome answer. I love that. That's part of what I loved about writing the book, is that in some capacity, I will have the opportunity to live on forever. You know, like if my great grandkids are like, what was Grandpa Cody like? It's like, well, he was like this, like it allows what I believe and thought and perceive life to be in this moment to live on forever. And I think there's just something really cool about that.
We got 51 episodes your posterity can listen to.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing. That's another thing that is so cool about doing the podcast, is it does create this digital library, because you'll be able to look back at different episodes and see different parts in your life and the way that you answered questions. And ultimately the idea of this podcast is to give me data for book 2. That's why I like to ask all these similar questions, because then it's like, oh, if you think Ben's awesome, well, this is how he views success, because I think the further we can get away from society's definition of success, which is very much in line with Beyond Net Worth podcast, right? That's really what you're talking about, and letting people share, because someone who could look at you outwardly and say, oh, Ben checks all the success check boxes, but they're really talking about like money and accolades and the things you've accomplished, but they wouldn't be checking off the answer you just gave. And so here they may be chasing those other tangible things you've created while missing the entire target. The target wasn't even over here. It was over here, and it was creating a legacy. Yeah. And that's such a different thing. And no one's going to know that unless they get the opportunity to ask you the question, because you can't see that motivation.
100%, man. That's what it's all about right there.
Okay, so if people want to connect with you, where's the best way to do that? Someone wants to get in on own a piece of a storage unit. How should they go about that?
Yeah, easy way. Big Storage Ventures. That's where we're talking about storage deals. Just DM. We're still, we're big enough. We've done a couple deals now where we feel really competent, but also small enough where we're still really approachable.
Sure.
Still give people a lot of attention whenever they reach out. We hop on a call. And then my personal page, for anything general like service business or just life, like happy to connect with anyone.
Okay, and those are all Instagram links, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll put all of those links in the show notes if you're listening. Ben, thank you so much for being here. Episode 51. It's exciting, man.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you, especially on a Monday evening, And the NBA playoffs are going on. Are you a basketball fan or just football?
I love the NBA. Yeah.
All right, who you got winning it all?
I wish that the Lakers would pull an upset for the old man one more time, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Oh, that's wonderful. So I am a Nuggets fan my whole life.
That's right.
Yeah. So
I've seen you at the games.
Yeah. So I had to struggle through years of, I've been a fan literally my whole life. So I've been through the ups and downs, and to have a fandom that starts at childhood, and then you never think, like when you're a small mid-market team, it's like being a Jazz fan.
Yeah.
You never really think you can get that championship. And like we got that glimpse, or not, I shouldn't say we, but the Jazz fans with Stockton to Malone, you know? And then you definitely never think you're going to have an MVP on your team, because it's like no one is choosing to come to Denver. Like the best basketball player in the world isn't just going to, in his career, say, I'm going to go play in Denver. So to get someone like Jokic, who just is such a treat to watch. Yeah. So I have the NBA League Pass. I watch every single game.
You're the one making a sacrifice, man. My team is out of the playoffs.
Is your team the Jazz?
I love the Jazz, man. My team is freaking tanking. My second favorite team is getting their butt whooped by your team. You're the one who should be in Denver now.
It's not until 7, so it's like I thought it through.
You're like checking your watch. Like,
yeah, I got to get out of here. It was interesting. So we had Jazz season tickets. We bought them when they were so good, with Mike Conley and Donovan and Rudy, and like it was so awesome.
I had them too at the time.
And then so our 3 years just ended, and we're not going to renew it because it's like the price has gone up 15%, and we suck.
They really have gone up
15%, dude. Every single year it goes up.
Did you buy a 3-year package?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I bought them individual years, and
that's probably the smarter way to do it.
I think they might have gone down from the peak, but anyways.
So it's like, it's not even fun anymore because you're basically going to see the other team.
Yeah.
And then if they don't play, then it's like, and even if they are good, but it's not a competitive game, it's not as fun, and it's like, it's such a bummer.
They can give you a game. The Jazz are good for a game.
Occasionally, but you got to get lucky and have it be one of those, you know? But it was funny because on Saturday I was watching the game. with a friend of mine. I was like, man, this is wild because the first 2 days of the first 2 games of Saturday, I watched Mike Conley play. I watched Rudy Gobert play.
Yeah.
I watched Donovan Mitchell play. I watched Joe Ingles play and Royce O'Neal.
Yeah.
Right? Like I saw their entire starting 5 all playing in the playoffs. Well, they're just, who knows? Maybe the draft will work out and they'll draft another Donovan. But man, they had something special there for a minute.
Gutsy to blow it up like that. Well,
Danny Ainge is pretty smart. I mean, he did some great things in Boston, and I feel like he's gotten good pieces. Markkanen's awesome, and Sexton has been great, and the new point guard, what is his name? George?
Yeah,
Keontae George. He's really good. So it's like it's not like they have got nothing, but they're
the
gonna
draft picks. I mean,
yeah,
they have a chance. It's just what does that turn into?
Look, Oklahoma City Thunder did with the draft. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the 1 seed.
Yeah.
That's insane.
And the youngest team in the NBA. So it's not like there's not a path for it. You know, you just got to get the right draft picks. But all right, Ben. Well, thank you so much for being here. This was awesome. I loved it. I could have talked to NBA for another 60
Let's go
minutes.
watch the game, man.
Yeah,
Thanks
absolutely.
for having me on.
Thank you, Ben. Okay, I'm going to do an intro.
Yeah.
Wherever you are and however you're listening, thank you so much for being back with us on another episode of Winning the Moment. This is episode 51, and we have Ben Gottfredson with us today. He is such an amazing person. He's got his own podcast, Beyond Net Worth Podcast, and I had the pleasure of being a guest on his, and now he is returning the favor. Stick through to the end. If you're an NBA fan, we get some good conversation about the Utah Jazz, Denver Nuggets, and LA Lakers, but most importantly, so much awesome nuggets of wisdom in this episode. I know you're going to love it. Be sure to like and subscribe and stay to the end.